Nancy Johns Price, and I'm with Compass Consulting. And today we're going to talk about accountability, setting a positive direction for your team. Today we're going to look at accountability through a special lens. The 4 agreements, which is putting the power of Don Miguel Ruiz to work with your team on accountability. We're going to take his work and look at how the 4 agreements can be used. Professionalism equals accountability. Or is it accountability equals professionalism? However you're going to look at it, we're all striving to have teams and workplaces that are professional, and that within that professionalism that we're being accountable. So I'm going to ask you to do an activity real quick, all right? You need 2 different sets of Post-it notes, each a different color. So on the one color, you're going to put and define in a sentence accountability in your personal life. And then I want you to do it on the other color, accountability in your work life. So you're going to take each one and you're going to write them out and put down what you define accountability to be in those particular situations. All right, so you've got your responses. What I'd like you to do is post them around you. So you're going to put them up, and you can mix them all up. It doesn't matter about the colors. Go ahead and just post them up. And in the meantime, let's look at what the dictionary says about accountability. It's a noun, and the definition of accountability is the quality or the state of being accountable, which I think it's always interesting when they use the word to define the word. Especially an obligation or a willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. All right, so there's a definition, and now you're looking at some of the things you did as a definition. I'm going to ask you at this point to ask 2 of you to get up, and you're going to put things that are alike in a group. So if something's similar and it comes to the same conclusion, you're going to put it in a group. Doesn't matter which color it is, but you're going to put it in a group. Go for that right now. Great. So now you have an opportunity. You got it all posted behind you, and you've got things put together. Now you've kind of grouped them, and you've discussed it a little bit. Because when you group things, you have to talk about, why are you putting it all together? So now you've kind of come up with an idea of what accountability means to your team, because that's very important. It's going to be different, and different goals are going to be in place for different teams. But here's something I think is very interesting, and this goes back to Molière. Now, if you don't know who Molière is, he was a French playwright and actor. But you've never heard of him? Well, no, because he was an actor and a playwright from 1622 to 1673. But this is what he said about accountability, which again, I think we need to take a time to discuss. It is not only what we do, but also what we do not do, for which we are accountable. So Molière's given us a good point. If we decide not to do something, we're still accountable that we made that decision not to do that. Okay, let's try working on this as a group. What do you think Molière was trying to say to us? And how does it apply to what we're doing and what we're looking at right now for accountability? All right, so we've looked at accountability and we've talked about it. And now we've gotten to the bottom line. And if you need more time for discussion, hit pause anytime you do need to. What does that mean for the team? So those things you came up with, the groupings, and considering Molière's point about what we don't do, we're accountable for as well, what does that mean for our team? And then the other thing I want you to look at is, what does that mean for our workplace? Because a lot of us at work, we interact with a lot of different teams. We interact with a lot of different people. They may be people from the outside our agency or our department or our company. So how are we using accountability in the workplace? All right, so you and your team are striving for professionalism. You're looking for different ways to do that. Well, it's important that we define it. So we're going to go back to doing the similar exercise where you had two different colored Post-it notes. On one of the colored Post-it notes, you're going to put down how do you strive personally for professionalism. And then you're going to say on the other one, the other color, you're going to put down how do you strive for it as a team. When you're looking at the team, what are you seeing happening? And how are we using it to be professional? All right, so you've taken time to look at all your responses and figure out where you're going as a team. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the book by Don Miguel Ruiz, The 4 Agreements. And we're going to look at each one of the agreements and how they can apply to you in the workforce. The great thing about this book is, it was written a while back, but people have used it over and over again. It was even on the Oprah show as one of the books that she chose for her book club. But it talks to things and looks at things through a spiritual lens. So if you were feeling the need for spirituality, if that's something that's important to you, this book is going to speak to you. But on the other hand, people that are not connected to the spiritual world and don't really feel there's that spiritual need, there's going to be a lot of things that will speak to you in this book as well. So we're going to look at the 4 agreements now. First one is, be impeccable with your word. 2, don't take anything personally. 3, don't make assumptions. And 4, always do your best. All right, so now we're going to start with number 1, which is be impeccable with your word. You're going to speak with integrity. You say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So now, this is all common sense. You look at it and go, well, yeah, this is what we should be doing, right? So one of the things I really want you to take away from this is it doesn't help us to do that internal, inner, putting ourselves down. Oh, that was stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Oh, what was I thinking? Right? So that's one of the things he deals with is stop giving yourself negative feedback. There's enough of it going on out there. So with your word, you're going to make sure that you have integrity and that you're saying what you mean, right? And you're trying to be clear about that, which we're going to talk about. And avoid using the word to speak against others. You know, that little gossip thing that gets going where, did you hear? Or did you know so-and-so? You don't want to participate in that. And that doesn't help your professionalism or your accountability at work. You don't want to gossip about others, but you also don't want to gossip about yourself. Put yourself down. And a lot of us do that. I'm one of the worst at that, where I find myself just picking on myself. And you got to stop and don't use negative language towards yourself. And use the power of your words for the direction of truth and love. So right now what I'm going to ask you to do as a team is you're going to look at what does being impeccable with your word mean to you. So you're going to look at that. What does that mean to me? And why is it important that I understand what it means to me as a person that's coming to be a part of a team? And then you're also going to look at what would help me to be impeccable with my word. All right, so those are some tough questions. I want you to take a minute and think about that. So you're looking at what does it look like? What does being impeccable with my word look like in my life? And what would I need to do? What help would I need to remain impeccable with my word? All right, so I hope you had some good discussions about that. Now the second one is don't take anything personally. And everybody goes, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm one of the worst offenders of this. I take things personally and I shouldn't. So how do I protect myself from that? How do I set myself up so I'm not doing that, which then is hurting some of the professionalism and the accountability of my team? So here are some things you need to think about. Nothing others do is because of you. All right? What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. So that's theirs, not yours. When you are immune to opinions and the actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. So you won't be feeling sorry for yourself, right? So one of the things you have to work as a team is to be confident in yourself and your team, build bridges between opinions, and find some commonalities, right? It's important that we all look at the different things in our lives that we have in common, because that helps us a lot. And then shared interests. Those are some ways that we can get to people or get to feel more comfortable with them and not take things so personally. So now what I'm going to ask you to do is, what tools can you do to avoid taking things personally? So let's take a second and let's think about that, talk about it with your team. What are some tools that you can use, or that you are using, or you think you should be using, right? Because there's some of us, I have to work on it constantly, that would help me to prevent me from taking things personally. All right, I hope you discussed some of those techniques. One of the things I want to share as an administrator for the city of Rochester, I'm the Southeast Quadrant administrator for the city. I work with tons of different people and coming at things from all different ways. And it's very difficult for me, but it's very important that I don't take things personally. When someone has gotten to me with an issue or a problem, they may be screaming and yelling, but they're screaming and yelling because they're frustrated. And hopefully I can take time to get them to calm back down so we can talk about what the problem is so that together we can look at some solutions. But I'm not going to be able to do that if I'm listening to things and taking things personally. They're not really at that time mad at me. Or if they are, I can't take it personal. I need to figure out a way to support them and find a solution to the issue. All right, now we're moving to the third agreement in our 4 agreements. So here we go. The third is don't make assumptions. And again, that's another hard one for human beings. We look at somebody, we judge them, or we make comments or jump to conclusions because we're making some assumptions. And the same thing happens with our communication. So one of the things you got to do with this one is find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. That will cut away people making some assumptions because you've been clear about what it is you really need. The next one is communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama, right? Well, I used to get accused of being a drama queen because I get so excited, and whether it's negative or positive, I'm always excited. And sometimes that's hard for people to understand what it is I'm really trying to get at and what I really want. So if I can calm myself down and figure out a way to say something, then people aren't making assumptions. The other thing that's good is thinking about email. You know, if you're doing email and you're upset at that point, don't send the email then. Wait. Read it over again before you send it. The other thing about email is you got to know, I'm not good at email. I am not always clear. People get confused by my emails. So I found that when there's something that I want everybody to be clear about, it helps me if I just pick up the phone and talk to somebody a little bit before I send it to them, so now they can understand. The other thing I do is I rely on people in the office, like the assistant administrator for me, to be able to look at things and go, I don't think this is clear, why don't you try that? And that helps so that people are not making false assumptions. The other one that comes from Don Miguel is that with this agreement, if you do just this agreement and none of the other ones, you can completely transform your life. All right, so that's something to think about. So now I want you to think about things that you can do for your team, that you can put in place so that you're not jumping to conclusions, you're not making assumptions about each other. So let's talk about that for a minute and how your team can work to make sure that we're not doing assumptions. So now I did some discussion around how to prevent making assumptions. And now what I'd like you to do as a team is, what are some of the changes you can make as a team to avoid the pitfall of assumptions? All right, now we're going to look at the fourth agreement, and that's the last in the series. The fourth agreement is always do your best. So you're always striving to do the best that you can do and to be the best that you can. But there's some things that we need to remember in order to do that. One of them is your best is going to be different from moment to moment. Your best is going to be different on a day that you're not feeling well, or that things are not going well in your personal life. Now, you don't want that to interfere, but it is going to change what your best is going to be. And then when you're having a day that's full of energy and everything's going the right way, your best is going to be different. So you want to make sure that you're checking that it doesn't always have to be here all the time, that it's going to be at different levels, but here was your best for today. The other thing is, under any circumstances, simply do your best, and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Communication with others will avoid misunderstandings. So you want to make sure that you're trying to do the best that you can do and be the best that you can be. But don't be hard on yourself, right? Give yourself a break on some things. And make sure that when you're working with your team, you're checking in with them from time to time to find out, is their load too much? And maybe that's why they're not being able to do more than you would like them to do. Make sure as a team you're checking in on each other and that you're staying true to understanding that your best changes from day to day. All right, with your team, I'd like you to discuss, what does professionalism look like? After we've talked about all these different things, we've looked at the 4 agreements, we've taken things considered from us personally, what are some of the goals you can create for your team to work on professionalism? Remembering that just like how your best is being done, some of your professionalism may be different from day to day depending on what's going on at your site or with some of your employees. So make sure you're checking in every once in a while. And if someone's having trouble with professionalism, sit down and find out what's going on. There may be some things that have changed in their life. So now, figure out, create some goals right now for your team on how you're going to be professional. When discussing professionalism, it's very important that we take into consideration accountability. As a team member, I need to be accountable, and I need to be able to take responsibility of things that are mine. And the sooner that you get a team set up to be able to accept accountability, your professionalism will rise to a level you haven't seen before, because everybody's heading for the same goal, and everybody's willing to take on responsibility for their work that they're doing as part of your team. So now I want you to take a minute and I want you to look at those goals you just created for your team for professionalism and tell me, how can you use the 4 agreements to accomplish those goals? All right, it's very important that when you've gone through something and you're working with a team, that you put down some personal goals for yourself, things that will help you to develop as a professional within your field. So name one thing that you commit to today for each of the 4 agreements. So with each of the agreements, you're now going to list a commitment that you're going to make personally that then will build up your professionalism, your accountability, make you a strong team member, and a team member that will be able to support the rest of your team. Thank you for spending time with Compass Consulting. We're glad to be a part of your teamwork that you're doing to strive for professionalism and accountability. And I want to let you know, you can get the 4 Agreement book anywhere online or in your favorite bookstore. Check out your public library. So you're looking for the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And don't miss the opportunity to own it. Another thing I did is I bought the Wisdoms from the 4 Agreements. It's a little book. And it's put together so nicely. And it fits right in your hand. You can give it as a gift when you're talking to your team about the 4 Agreements. And it's also something that'll fit right in a desk. It'll fit in a briefcase. It'll fit in a backpack. It's a great thing to have with you and to keep handy. The other thing that's great is you can go right online and check into all of the amazing things that Don Miguel Ruiz and his family are doing. They're even having a special conference where you can go meet with them, spend a whole weekend with them, get drenched in the thoughts of the book, and that's happening in August, and it's being held in Colorado. So get on their website and check it out. To find out more information, go right on their website, the4agreements.com. Make sure you check that out, and that way you can find all the different things that are connected with 4 Agreements and also other books that have been written. So it's been great. On behalf of Compass Consulting, we hope that you got something out of this, and let us design a workshop for you. We'll design it right around what you're looking for your team, so you can set positive directions for your team and your agency. So give us a chance. Contact us at compass.consulting.pr@gmail.com. Thank you, and good luck with being professional and having strong accountability.